home, your home, the seas forever. Oh, your home, your home. Till I'm not but skull and bones, your home, your home.
Is in session because I'm going to give you a lesson on the history of burlesque. It's also important to know where burlesque came from. It's important to know our origins and respect those who came before us and how our art came to be. Well, in the beginning, it was more about teasing the mind rather than teasing your eyes. It was more about wit and sharp observation and the disrobing that we know now, which we do love. But the origins are also very intriguing. So you might wonder, where does the word burlesque come from? But the word burlesque originates from the Italian word burlesco, which means to make fun of, send off, or satirize. So the first recorded burlesque theatrical performance was an Irish playwright, John O'Keeffe, wrote a popular opera which satirized the upper classes. And this was something that burlesque at the time was about. It was about satire, and it was about comedy exposing and making fun of the current political situation. So in the early 1800s is when the female-to-male gender bending came to play, which is a really big part in the history of burlesque. Hence why pantsuit acts are so popular. In 1817, the Chia Elizabeth Vesters was the first woman to play a male lead in a theatrical performance. Later, in the 1830s, she was the first woman to actually manage a theater, which was huge. She would wear tight-fitting pants and expose her shapely legs, which had many men swoon over her when unto I'm sure. Her seductive, witty shows were a hit with the public, and people adored a little bit of figure, voluptuous curves. But theater was expensive, and not everyone could afford it. So in the late 19th century, music halls opened. It was a great place with cheap booze and entertainment all day for the lower classes to enjoy. It wasn't around the same time as the Moulin Rouge started, vaudeville started, a lot of musical theater from which burlesque came to be. So the Moulin Rouge was widely popular, but the girls were ruffling their skirts and showing their pantaloons. Circuses would introduce beautiful girls just walking around during scene changes. They wouldn't have to be dancers or anything. They would just have to be beautiful and just move. The public's entertained while the scene is being changed. It makes sense. And vaudeville had, of course, the showgirls who would perform with the comedian and the straight man. This is how the showgirl came to be. This is how burlesque originated. This is before we disrobed. This is when burlesque was, still is on many occasions, about comedy, about satire, about politics, about making fun of the upper classes. This is how burlesque began. But how did it turn into the art that we know today?